All right, so as we start this edition of Fine Print tonight, let's in fact take a look back. It was 2020 and Donald Trump was looking for a re-election. There were 4 other Republican nominees who were in the running. But we won't be surprised if you don't remember as to who the other nominees were in the running. Because all you could, of course, see was Donald Trump. He received 18 million votes in the primaries, the most ever for an incumbent president in the United States of America in a primary. Now, cut to 2023, and the American presidential elections are still about 17, 18 months away, and the red race is already getting very crowded. And the most obvious name and the front runner is, again, the former President Donald Trump for the Republicans. He'll be 77 years old while running for office, and this is his 3rd bid for the White House. And next in line to have joined this race, who's also decided to throw his hat into the ring, is the former Vice President Mike Pence, who's now taking on his ex-boss. And during his speech at Iowa to launch his 2024 campaign, he went all out at Donald Trump. Now, Mike Pence blamed Donald Trump for being unfaithful to the American Constitution, of abandoning the conservative values. Listen to what he had to say.
As I've said many times, on that fateful day, President Trump's words were reckless. They endangered my family and everyone at the Capitol. But the American people deserve to know that on that day, President Trump also demanded that I choose between him and the Constitution. Now voters will be faced with the same choice. I chose the Constitution, and I always will.
All right, so that is a promise that Mike Pence has to make, that he will choose the Constitution always. But he's also got another formidable rival, and this is Ron DeSantis. He's currently the governor at Florida. He's emerged as a favorite amongst the Republican base. He's, of course, using his anti-LGBTQ stance and the pro-gun laws to try and sway the voters in his favor. He's expected to take a similar line of campaigning during his national campaigning days as well. He has distanced himself from Trump's version of conservatism and has doubled down on Trump's populist America First agenda.
Hello, California.
Our country is going in the wrong direction. I think we all see it. I think we feel it. Is anybody happy with having an open southern border where drugs are pouring in and killing millions of Americans? Is anybody happy with economic policies that are causing costs to rise and the value of our dollar to decline by almost 20% in the last 4 or 5 years alone?
Now, some of the other candidates include the likes of Nikki Haley, a former governor of South Carolina. She's a daughter of Indian immigrants, but has got a pretty hard line on immigrants coming into America. Another is South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. He's the only African-American Republican in the U.S. Senate. He's often stressed on the United States, stating that the United States is not a racist country because of the opportunities that he has got. And the former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is a former close associate of Donald Trump. Now, these are some of the big political figures who are in the red race. They come with their own religious basis as well, so it will complicate the Republican National Convention. But experts say that all this noise could, of course, work in Donald Trump's favor. One of the major strategies of nominees like Mike Pence and Ron DeSantis is to try and deliver anti-Trump speeches. Now, so far, Nikki Haley has been very subtle in her jibes that she's taken at Donald Trump and his policies. In case they are successful enough to convince voters with their rhetoric, it might, of course, work in their favor, but then again, it could also backfire because the votes will get distributed amongst them. And this could, of course, work in favor of Donald Trump. Now, to give us more perspective in terms of what is happening in American politics at this moment, we're being joined by Dr. Christina Iona Dragomir, who is a political analyst and a commentator. She's joining us live from New York at this moment. Now, Dr. Dragomir, thank you very much indeed for taking time out and speaking to us here on WION. And what we are witnessing at this moment in American politics is very interesting. You know, Mike Pence, the former Vice President of the United States of America, has now thrown in his hat in the ring to take on his former boss, Donald Trump. So the question that everyone wants to know and answer for is what sort of a challenge does Mike Pence pose to Donald Trump?
Hi, Mohammed. Thank you for having me over. I would like to place this a little bit further into perspective. This is a unique equation that we are seeing. The candidacy of Vice President Pence it's only the third one in the U.S. history where a former vice president is going head to head with their former boss, with the President of the United States, and is the first one in modern history. So that is quite unique in the particular situation. However, we have seen the divergence between the vice president and the president coming for some time. After the January 6th elections, we have seen that Mike Pence took a very different route from President Trump. And President Trump, at the time, President Trump was actually quite vehement in saying that he is not going to be very happy with Vice President Pence. So we have seen the divergence taking place for some time. Also, we have to remember that Pence was chosen because he was able to energize the evangelist Christian base of the Republicans in certain states, like Iowa, for example. And this is a very important base for the Republican Party. And as a result of it, Pence is definitely capitalizing on his conservatism, on his lineage to Ronald Reagan. He actually mentioned Reagan by name when he declared candidacy. And also, he really is running as, first of all, as a Christian, and after it as a conservative, hoping to energize the base and hoping that they would vote for him. But we have to remember that his base is actually quite split. Many of the evangelist Christians of the United States are actually quite MAGA supporters. So he is coming a second by very far. If any, because DeSantis and Nikki Haley, as you rightfully mentioned, and Chris Christie right now are also emerging probably ahead of Pence right now.
Absolutely, indeed. And also, Dr. Dragomir, the fact that you follow American politics so closely, for people who are watching this from outside the United States of America, the elections are still about a good 17 months away. But the race at this moment is to try and get the nomination from the Republican Party. With that being the case, what sort of a chance do these other contenders in the ring have against Donald Trump?
So you are right to point out that we are living in a perpetual election. Election seems to never end in the United States, also because it's big money, and also it's because it's quite entertaining for the electorate and beyond. But this being said, why is this going on right now with so many candidates coming in? You have to acknowledge the fact that these candidates are also raising to national awareness when they are throwing their hat in the ring. So people like Tim Scott, for example, that otherwise people will not know, even Nikki Haley, are not very well known. So they are gaining a lot of prominence right now. But also what we see is that because Donald Trump is still the main candidate, very powerful, we see a lot of people throwing jabs at Donald Trump. So we see a lot of fights going on between all these candidates and Donald Trump himself.
Absolutely, indeed, Dr. Dragomir. Thank you very much indeed for joining us from New York and getting us all those insights there.
My pleasure, Mohammed. Have a good night.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.